Hello, and thank you for tuning in to the Flatirons Syndicate Motorsports Podcast. This show is brought to you by Flatirons Tuning, your source for any aftermarket or OEM Subaru parts. Be sure to check out our store at flatirons.com and stay tuned with Flatirons Tuning.
The other day, I was hanging out
one job
with my dad, and he said that he heard listening to the podcast, and I always get such like a jolt back to reality when I recognize that like people actually listen to this.
Oh,
because I basically don't say anything that I want anyone to hear.
What?
But here I am saying it nonetheless.
All right. Well, with that, welcome back to the Flatirons Syndicate Podcast. We're in the shop. We got Tasso from OTC Racing, Jeremy from Money Shift Rally again. I grabbed Tasso on the way back from racing dirt bikes.
Mm-hmm.
You're passing through the shop, and Jeremy is, well, you're about to do some traveling.
Yeah.
Not because you wanted to, but here we are.
Yeah, I do a lot of traveling, racing, non-racing.
This is not racing based travel.
No.
But so with you in the shop, Tasso, let's maybe just give the folks a quick update. You know, what's going on with OTC Racing. Kind of as you'd mentioned as we were leading into this or getting set down, you know, there have been a couple months where you've kind of been off the grid.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the latest? What is the status of the project? What's going on?
Yeah. So, essentially, I'm 2 years into a rebuild that was supposed to take a couple months.
2 years into a 6-month rebuild.
2 years into a 6-month rebuild, and I've been doing other stuff too with the time. I've been kind of recognizing the value in the reset, and I've raced all sorts of stuff throughout the years, sailboats, mountain bikes, dirt bikes, cars. I've done a couple car races in there with like some Lemons folks. But yeah, essentially sort of the traditional Subaru OTC racing, hill climbing part of OTC racing has not been on hold. A lot of stuff's been happening. But, you know, it's been a little while since I've properly been
and it is
at my
a big
gig.
project. This is not a small thing.
Right.
I mean, so like just to anybody that is listening that is not familiar with what happened, I guess 2 years ago at this point?
Yep. Yeah. So Grid Life, Alpine Horizon Fest,
2022.
2022.
Yeah.
I was on a perfect season with the hill climbing, qualifying first in class and winning the class every race so far that year, including an overall victory. Like a couple weekends before the Grid Life event. Supposed to just go party. I love, Texas Dave puts on a fun, a fun event. Grid Life is fun. I love going there and having a good time. It's kind of my blow off steam for what is normally a very focused kind of on performance race season for me. Rolled the car super hard. Hard enough to injure my head. And I remember even thinking as I was rolling, one, shit, I have a concussion. I'm not supposed to be. That's why I stopped racing mountain bikes, is to stop getting so many concussions. And two, shit, there goes my perfect season. Abby's going to be so mad at me for wrecking the car. I'm so mad at me for wrecking the car. I was supposed to just goof around here and not really get into any trouble. So there it was. So then that sparked.
Jeremy's kind of been there.
It's amazing how many places your mind goes.
Yeah.
In the 5 seconds that you're airborne.
Yep. You can think real fast in those seconds, in those milliseconds.
Yeah.
So the number of thoughts. Oh man. Anyways, that sparked kind of at the end of a chapter essentially for my car racing program. The chassis was so bent up. I think. At this point, have we done? I figure if we did a video or a podcast, or whatever.
We've talked about it a few times. Yeah. It's the hard thing with the race car, and especially with the rally car, is that you would hope that you would have. Well, there's certain impacts that you can come back from.
Yep.
And then there's certain
they're
ones,
par for the course. You expect bits of damage here and there.
Yeah, and then there's points where you damage the chassis to a point where it is just not fixable or just will not make sense to fix.
I mean, the classic thing is if you broke the cage.
Yeah.
In some way.
My cage is actually intact. And I thought to myself, ooh, I wonder if I could start replacing some panels.
Yeah.
And we'll touch on this a little bit. The red car was kind of a love-hate thing. But it's when I started getting stuff apart and actually properly looking at the unibody and like the firewall, cowl panel area was buckled and pushed over. Everything was just pushed over.
Structural components, things that this firewall attaches and connects these two pieces, and these two things have to be aligned for the car to go straight. Like frame rails.
Rally cars take such a beating throughout their normal course of being a rally car that when you actually stop and have to look at it because you've taken a major hit, that's when you notice all the other things that have happened along the way.
And that's not even it was messed up. It crashed so hard it cracked the transmission case. Which if you know Subaru anatomy, that's a pretty weird place to have a stress crack. But that was how hard that impact was for essentially I don't know what it was, top of second gear, like rev limiter second gear roll.
I've seen the video. It doesn't look like a super violent roll.
It doesn't. It looks like it just kind of beach balls around and comes to a stop. But, it whipped my head around enough that jiggled my brain. My whole seat and its mount had kind of crushed over. There's holes in the floor. Every panel in the car is bent. It tacoed both front lower control arms.
Yeah.
A bunch of stuff.
It's one of those things where, to put the car back together, if you're going to have to, find another donor car, cut A, B, and C pillars off, somehow find somebody that's willing to, move that over.
Yeah. And so we had a decision.
Stitch back together, critical suspension mounting points. Doesn't make sense. Probably not.
I was faced with a decision. Once I determined that car was kind of no good to go again. Dave piped up too and was like, hey, what can we do to get you back on the road, help you out with some cage kit stuff. Super nice of him. Nothing but love and Texas
Rally
Dave.
Ready, Texas Dave,
and his whole crew. Those are good. They were there at the crash too, and immediately up on my side, Micah Diaz, Bucky Lassick. I felt comfortable surrounded by a handful of X Games greats that were comfortable with dealing with someone who had a. I was like, oh man, I'm so sorry I screwed up, and hit my head. They're like, dude, of all the places and all the groups of people, this is the group of people to have had a whatever. So it sucked, but I had a decision to make. A bunch of people were pouring support out. The red car was a good car. Even before I had it, it was a prepared all-wheel drive rallycross national champion car with Susan and Max Lawson, who had it before. Who are still friends of mine. I raced Lemons with them a couple months ago.
And you reached, because you said you would finally, the one goal that you had not accomplished yet was an overall win in the CHCA.
Yeah, so I had
Florida Hill Climb Association, and you'd finally done that.
Right, I had
so you'd hit all these goals.
CHCA class championships, still have a course record in that car, a regional open class rally win, Rally Colorado overall stage win, including the national cars, an overall win at CHCA, undefeated to that point at Grid Life Alpine Horizon Fest, which was one event. Still undefeated at Land's End. As any time I've missed years and been beat those years, but that car is undefeated in the rally class. Very successful car. And I could have essentially pulled a bunch of stuff off that car, replaced some of the bits here and there, plop it into another mild steel cage chassis with very little prep. And the goal at first was okay, we'll get ready.
The initial goal was in the 6-month build was, this happened towards the end of the season.
Yep.
September, I think you said, September 22, something like that.
I had a couple weeks because I had to, get my head right.
Yeah, and then you got the winter coming up, and the beginning of the next season in 2023 was almost the middle of the year. I think it was May, something like that.
Yeah. The hill climbs need the hills to thaw.
Yeah.
So
you had seemingly enough time to even get another chassis and put something back together and get back on the road for the next season. But then, and the easiest way to do that would be to do a cookie cutter copy. Move as much of the old car into the new car, change minimal things, and then...
What was the first thing that was okay, I'm going to do this over? Was it the engine?
To take it on a larger project? To do a bigger change?
To make this a bigger project. Was it the engine?
So it's hard to say exactly because it was such a... For one thing, I had a head injury. And then I'm questioning everything I'm doing. I honestly... one of the reasons I got into racing cars and out of mountain bikes was because I had a ton of concussions. I used to be a pro class downhill mountain bike racer, and that's not good to your body. And so I was not supposed to get injured in the car. People were like, hey man, are you sure you want to keep doing this? Because, whatever. I'm like, yeah, no, I like it. It was a weird thing that happened. I kind of dealt with a lot of like the, why did it happen? Because it's still not super clear. There's some evidence that maybe I had a front left D-bead and that dug in and rolled. So whatever.
That can happen.
I don't have a reason for the roll in the first place. So there was a lot of hemming and hawing. And I kind of refocused in on why I was doing it in the first place. Because this is something we've talked about before a couple times, including somewhat recently. This is not like my profession, right? It's I have a day job. Jeremy has a day job. This is your day job. I like to treat it professionally because, even though this isn't my day job, I still have support from folks who it is their job, right? This is your business. And so I like to respect that. And obviously I'm eternally grateful for the support that I do have. But at the end of the day, I'm doing this because I love to do it and because I think it's really cool, right?
Sure.
So I sat there and thought about things like, yes, I could get the car going again and kind of get back on the same, rat race or whatever it was that I was doing, which was a very successful program. Or why am I doing this? Because these cars are sick as hell, right? Because it's super fun to slide around on dirt, make cool noises, throw roost.
You love the sport. You love the competition. You love the sport.
Like Subarus are cool, rally cars are cool, hill climbing is cool, racing is cool. So what do I like about those things? Making
one of the
it super
balances
cool.
there is that you get in a season and you get into this churn of like hitting an event and getting from one event to the next to put a season together. Mm-hmm. And it's like the mentality and the focus can become just trying to hit those events and like riding this churning.
Yeah. So like talk
monster.
about what's going on with your car right now.
Well, yeah. So with our rally car, and rally cars just, man, they take a beating. I mean, I remember once there was a guy years and years ago with my Subaru that asked me at the counter, well, are you ever going to rally it or turn it into a rally car? I'm like, no. Because, like, I see what a rally car goes
The shell
through.
becomes a consumable item.
Yeah, when everything is going right, how many things go wrong. Mm-hmm. And then, like, you see the things that can go wrong and, like, the scale to which just repairing the car to keep it just so that it goes straight becomes a challenge.
What other sport do you bring spare brake calipers?
Yeah. Or spare subframes, or
a spare car.
Spare car.
Yeah.
It's
the thing is, so with our rally car, and this is what we've fallen into, is that we're trying to hit all these events in probably the last 4 or 5 months, and so as we're recording this middle of October, we just came back from LSPR. Or the car just came back from LSPR. And we had done a rally in Arizona maybe 4 weeks before that. Prescott, Arizona. And so we're having all of these issues, like the car goes off, we DNF, we have a failure, fix the failure, and we're just kind of getting the car patched back together to the point where it's enough to get to the next event. But now the car is behaving differently. Like this time out, we had the car was just pulling like crazy.
Yeah, I was curious about that because I saw from the results that Scott really wasn't able to keep up his pace at LSPR. Was it a mechanical misbehavior?
Yes. So we changed the springs out because we've been having an issue with the suspension. So we got in new springs to kind of rotate things around to try and get the alignment set up right. So before we put the springs on, the car pulls hard to the right. We had an impact on the left front in Prescott. So, got that to the point where the car was running and driving. The assumption was, well, it's got to be an alignment issue. So we put the springs on, rotate everything around, get the right height set, have the car aligned, but the car's still pulling to the right. Mm. And basically what we, because all of this happened, I think we got the car aligned with
less than a week, right?
A week to go before we go out there. And so the assumption is, well, maybe we'll just figure something out, try something at the rally. Basically, it was either the car pulls really hard to the right or really hard to the left. And it seems to be a drivetrain issue because if you're on power on brakes, car pulls, you push in the clutch and just let the car coast and it goes straight. So it's like power or braking, and it makes it like pull. And it was mostly to the right, but then they played around with the toe and then it pulls to the left. So there's got to be something going on. But we've got this kind of like snowball of problems that keeps getting bigger, and we're just kind of like wrestling with it to get to the point where we can get to the next event. But now we're to the point where what we're trying to encourage everybody to do is like we got to stop. We got to get off this crazy train. Work through these problems to get to the point where the car at least just tracks straight.
When you've done 4 or 5 events in a season, like at what point you're like, oh well, I guess the season's over. If the car still drives, you don't want to be like, well.
Yeah, it's a challenge. I mean, it's like you get into this churn of like you start focusing on these various different events and trying to hit the schedule, and that's the hardest part with rally and CHCA to a certain extent too.
There's not a lot of downtime in rally. I mean, so Cameron's currently rebuilding after our crash at Rally Colorado, and he wants to try to hit Ridge Rally in the California Rally Series because that's a 2025 event, but it's in December of 2024. Yeah. So that means
that's a fast turnaround.
Yeah, it's a fast turnaround.
Well, and with rally, the hardest thing, especially as a privateer, if you don't have multiple people that can work on the car, wrench on the car to like go through everything. I mean, I remember when we talked to Heather Haller, who was a WRC mechanic, and was saying that like you take the whole car apart between events, completely down to the shell.
I think people are under the impression that's what a lot of rally teams are doing, or like that's what a lot of people like. Case in point, right? Like, I've had people message OTC Racing being like, "Hey, are you looking for any drivers? I think I'm really fast." I'm like, "What do you think I am? Yeah, I'm the driver. It's my car. Yeah. Build your own dang car." But so we don't have teams of full-time mechanics.
Well, but the hard part is I see the rationale. I see why you would do that, because especially when you have a rally and you have an off, like what did you actually bend? Like, well, there's the obvious things that you bent, but there can be so many things that, like a lateral link that just has a little bit of a curve in it, a bushing that's been blown out, but it just doesn't present obviously.
A lot of those programs still have a frame jig or something like that, where they can put the car back on, be like, does it still line up? Yeah, it's straight. Okay, we can start rebuilding again. And this is not where we are. I'm pretty happy now. I'm on pin stands and off of jack stands, and that's the level of my chassis professionalism that's going on here, right? Like it's, it's tough when it's you.
I mean, I remember now the thing that pushed you guys and us into a different category of how much are we going to be able to do before we go racing was the cage.
Yeah, and that was.
And that's the same thing again for us is it took months for the cage kit to land.
Right. Yeah. And that's the result of probably a couple months on my part of hemming and hawing, because thinking about that same snowball, and the red car had become its own snowball. I was on that Groundhog Day of like, even run to run, that motor was moving. It'd fill a more or less, roughly a pint-sized catch can in 6 competition miles.
6 miles.
Yeah.
Not 600 miles. No.
Yeah, it was moving a ton of oil. We took the motor apart later and found out it had some internal damage, but it was still running like a, pissed off Mustang or whatever. I don't know what.
Well, but that's the thing is like you learn all these problems. You kind of, some of them you learn what has to be fixed or dealt with, and the things you can kind of live with or work around.
I had so many live with things. Run to run. Like my routine was get to the top, make sure it still had enough oil in it to drive back down, because that's a cool thing to have to keep an eye on.
And if it didn't, get the quart of oil that you brought these 6 miles up.
Pour the catch can back in the motor. Yeah. It's stupid. Having to clean connectors because they would get covered in oil from the overflowing catch can. Yeah. I had to, keep the gas fuel level like exactly where I needed it to not have fuel slosh issues. Yeah. Between events, it was inevitably trying to keep up with whatever part was falling off the car. The floor of the car was starting to wear through. I don't run like full underbody protection, and that car had so many gravel competition miles
from the gravel spray going.
It had like rear suspension protection and stuff, but it was starting to get pretty thin in spots in like the floor of the car.
We had an interesting opportunity recently to see the underside of a 2024 VSC car.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite things. Every time I see a WRC car or a well-prepped car upside down, I screenshot that.
You know what a freaking Cybertruck looks like from the side is what the VSC car looks like from the bottom.
Flat floor, but a functional.
Yeah.
No, they're amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
And you run multiple events and you got to keep the car reliable. It makes sense.
Right.
And this is the thing, like you start to realize all of these issues or remember these issues that you've been living with or working around, and now you're building a new car and you have the opportunity to actually put a proper fix in place, or like you don't have to move this problematic thing over, like your engine.
Yeah, I wanted to go in.
Well, now it's time to build a new.
I wanted to go in and refresh that motor at least. That was a different thing, but one of the first, like what Jeremy's talking about here, some of the major factors were I didn't like where my seating position was in the red car.
Yep.
It was limited by the stock pedal assembly, which was limited by the fact I didn't have I was in the rat race. I didn't have the time or the downtime or the resources because every off season I'm doing a motor or transmission or whatever to also go in and do things like pedal box and undertake because it worked. The red car worked. I didn't want to upset it too much. But once it was broken, that it was upset anyways.
Well, and pedal box and seating position, once you're building a new chassis, that's your blank slate. Right?
Exactly.
Those are the two things that are like almost impossible to do in an existing car.
Yep. Shit, even something like your wiring harness, you weren't going to redo that.
No, that was years and years of multiple people making little competition add-ons and whatever. Like the Haltech stuff that was in it by itself ran great, but it was all the Subaru stuff that had 2 or 3 different things patched together. It had been on access port stuff. It had what's the little wideband gauge that everyone always runs, and that was the AEM one. Wired into also log with the access port as I was street tuning on Access Tuner at one point in the early version of this car and stuff.
Yeah.
The DCCD controller was patched into everything then too, and the number of just random. I was kidnapping certain signals for cold air or for what am I looking at? IAT sensor versus the map sensor, kidnapping other things to run. Intercooler sprayer and stuff like that.
So this is you have the blank slate, and that can be a double-edged sword. And for all the reasons you just laid out, because, again, the fastest way to get the car running is a cookie cutter. If you have to pull the wiring harness out, or the chassis, I don't think you had any wiring at all.
No, I got essentially I think must have been a flood car. It wasn't totaled, but it had stuff shoved into places. It didn't make any sense, dirt and leaves and stuff like that, right?
But so the fastest way to get it running is you just take everything out of the existing car and move it over, and then you would get the car running again.
But even before I decided to stick with the GD, for a while there, I thought to myself, here's my chance to make my lightest car possible. Because I knew 60 pounds of weight in the red car still that was welded into place at that point. I couldn't remove. That if I told myself if I ever do a car again, I'm going to do things like gut the B-pillars and remove all these other brackets that got welded into place and stuff like that. And so for a while there, I sent out inquiries for GCs. I was cruising Facebook Marketplace, hey, I wanted a coupe. Everyone's like, oh, you're going to hate yourself getting a coupe. You can't get to the back. It's I don't care. I'm building a full nuts out competition car. I would rather do better yoga to access the rear of the car than, pay the weight penalty of having extra structure in the door frames and stuff like that for a 4-door. And so, honestly, I kind of went there, and I thought to myself, man, GDs are just the best Subaru. You just can't fight with the best, Again, my diatribe.
But the snowball goes the other way. Instead of dealing with snowball problems, a snowball of possibilities, and how many of these paths do you want to chase? And now here we are. I mean, you've got the car. The cage is in the car. The wiring is coming together in the car.
That took a year, by the way. To get the chassis all prepped. I took it back down to essentially one layer of sheet metal the whole way through. Cleaned some stuff up. It's super clean on the inside.
Yeah.
Got the lightest cage that I could think of, which was the Custom Cages kit, which came with its own complications in terms of like dealing with England and all that kind of stuff. They run a very long holiday in the winter and stuff like that.
Sure.
They kind of set a lot of stuff, back in the first place. But yeah, so at this point anyways, the car it's short. I'll just go with my little mental list of things that need to get done. The motor is pretty much back together. It needs to be put into the car. Wiring, Jeremy has been working for a long time. Not his fault, my fault for stringing him along.
Body harness is done.
Yeah.
It's an engine harness.
Yeah. So we need to get in place so that we know exactly where everything is, because it has a whole suite of sensors I didn't have before.
Yeah.
All sorts of capabilities, including
So that's close.
really close there.
Yeah.
I need to come up with a full cooling package. It'll be front mount, more or less stacked radiator, intercooler, oil cooler behind that too. Bunch of cooling, but all super bespoke. As short of intercooler piping as possible. So none of like that, 30 feet of intercooler piping on your normal Subaru front mount. A lot of stuff like that. It's got EGT sensors in every single, all four exhaust tubes have an EGT sensor in them, which I'm really excited for.
Crankcase pressure, coolant pressure?
No crankcase pressure, but coolant pressure and temp, oil pressure and temp, fuel pressure and temp.
Yeah. So lots of
a bunch of more stuff too.
Lots of information.
Ethanol sensor.
Ethanol. Yep. Bunch of fun stuff. Yep. I mean, not nearly as much as still like a Vermont sports car or a pro car or something like that. But compared to what I used to have, which was like, it's got oil pressure.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's got coolant in it still.
Yep.
I can tell because it's steaming. Like, yeah,
That's
cool.
right.
We're good.
That's right. If the coolant is shooting out, that's good because it
It's
still
good,
has some.
right.
Seriously, tore open the upper radiator hose. Didn't see anything billowing out of the hood, but the engine was dry by the end of the stage.
Yeah.
Who? What?
Yeah. For
When I went out with rally kids
Yeah.
in Santiago's car.
Yeah.
Just halfway through a stage, must have ripped a hole right through the upper hose. No mess, but also no water.
Yeah.
It was the main way I knew the catch cans were full on the last car. They were right underneath one of my hood vents, and I would get a little bit of oil spatter on my windshield. And I was like, oh man, the catch cans are full. I hope I finish soon.
Yeah. Oh, there's the finish line. It's gonna be fun.
Okay, we're good. Just turn it off. So it's a.
So do you
it's
think,
close.
and kind of Jeremy, you've got, like you alluded to, a little bit of the reverse of the problem where you are working through the same level of rebuild right now with your guys' rally car, but you've got that tighter timeline. So tell us, or maybe do you guys think
and
it's worth taking a break sometimes?
So, I mean, there's a strong desire to get out there and complete a season start to finish.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. I get that.
At the same time, it's exhausting to get the car there, and you make compromises to make it ready in time. And then sometimes you're like, oh, okay, well, we're going to make this compromise because we're going to be ready in this week. And then you get to that week and it's not ready because of another thing. And you're like, well, shit, I already compromised on that thing.
Yep.
I wish I hadn't compromised,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's where, like, we've been making so many like, the standards that we hold to try and get the car ready to go to the next event have just been getting lower and lower.
So, I mean, there's an argument, like, hell, 2 years ago, Scott rolled at Rally Colorado, and he had a new car within a week because he went out and bought somebody's rally car.
That's the current.
There's an argument for that, but that's yet another compromise in the sense of, well, here's now you guys are living with a lot of the choices that somebody else made to some extent.
Yeah.
Scott spends a lot of time in cars that he's not super intimately familiar with because of his time constraints and also the number of changes that are constantly happening.
The hardest thing, the hard reality that we're working through now, and this is especially when you're talking about a rally that comes up because you can't, it's not just you in the car going to an event, you've got to have a crew. And, rallies are not, it's not a one-day event. A lot of times they're 2, maybe 3 days event. If you talk about recce, okay, maybe now there's 4 days where you've got to get you, driver, co-driver, crew out to a place, hotels, like transit time, all this sort of stuff. Like there's a big commitment to running a rally because of the nature of the sport. What is all involved?
I mean, yeah.
Compared to like just going to a NASA day or a time attack or something like that. So there's more
time attack guys right now are like, wait.
Yeah. Well, but so there's such a cost just to get to and come back from the event.
Yeah.
Like you go to the event, you blow up the car. Like we had an event where we actually lost a wheel. Like the wheel fell off in the like pre-running of a press stage, and we weren't able to run the event at all. So it's like we drove all the way out there, crew, transit time, diesel. Diesel is expensive. And then turn around and come right back home, and all of the money is spent. And we're to the point where you've got to kind of do this calculus of like, okay, how much of an investment is it worth to like roll the dice that like you get out there and you just got to turn and come back?
It feels fucking bad.
Yeah.
It feels so bad.
That is the worst.
Yeah.
So it's worth saying, I've never completed a stage rally really.
Yeah.
Like I still have a speed factor of NA because
right.
I don't really have like a completed stage rally.
Well,
I've like rejoined.
Rally's it is a war of attrition, but that's like you're putting yourself on the back foot if you don't know that the car's in good shape before you get there. And
you might think it's in good shape, but it'll tell you what you forgot to fix.
I think, unfortunately, well, for better or for worse, we've gotten it really good at dealing with like mid-rally crises.
Sure.
And slamming the car back together and continuing to go out there.
And mid-rally crises, that is kind of the nature of the beast.
Yeah, but the thing about getting good at dealing with them means that
you have a lot of problems.
It means you also kind of like you're going to be dealing with them all the time.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, and that's the real hard thing is like if you don't have a problem solved and you know that you're bringing a problem with you to an event, is that problem going to be the thing that you're battling the whole time? Are you going to find a new problem that you're also battling for the whole event? Is there going to be a new problem that takes you out? I mean, and then how much of a distraction does this problem chasing or problem management end up taking over the event versus actually being able to just drive the car, find time, find technique?
I've never had a crew for a rally or really for a hill climb either, other than my wife's mom came out and helped one time, which was really nice of her. But so like showing up at service and you got whatever, a half hour, and you got to like check all these fluids, check all these bolts, get a sandwich in you, try and hydrate yourself, figure out what you're going to need for the next loop, stuff like that is exhausting. Yeah. And as much as anything, I enjoy showing up to these weekends because I like hanging out with everybody. This is a social factor in this for me too. You go to a stage rally, you're going to see them at Park Expose, and you're going to see them at dinner unless they're trying to hunt down a gas tank in a junkyard somewhere because they broke theirs or something like that, right?
The parties at the end of the rally they're kind of incredible. Like, they're crazy because everybody is like just
blowing off
so much steam. Huge sigh of relief.
Yep. Yeah. We made it somehow, or at least we're here,
which is fun.
What was kind of hilarious.
You're so hot and tired already too.
Yeah. So. You crashed, hit your head, and were like, what am I doing here?
Mm-hmm.
I crashed, hit my head, and my first reaction was, after I knew my head was okay, my first reaction was I want to go to the next race, like ASAP. I want to go back out there right now because I want to prove I can not crash.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then again, I had a few weeks of, ow, my head. Yeah. And then at Prescott, these two guys who were in their early 20s, first rally, I think they bought a car that was prepped.
Yeah.
Go out there on, what stage was it? Perkinsville. Big long flats, like 800 meters of flat crest, another 800 meters. They must have got a little squirrely because they ended up just losing at like 100 miles an hour, just rolling the car over.
Yeah.
They also kind of hit their head, I'm told, and that didn't feel very good. But at that party, these two guys were standing up, on top of their car after they got it back, pancaked, like
yeah.
I can't wait to do it again.
Yeah, I mean there's the insanity of a rally. It either gets you or it doesn't, and all the rally people, those are the guys that it got them. Yeah, there's the challenge of it. There's the adrenaline of it. There's just the insanity of like the pace of like for a 1 or 2 day event of just like having everything kind of like you're in this machine that is just going.
If you're doing rallies, if you're doing this kind of aggressively difficult motorsport, you are a type of person who doesn't like to fail. You're a person who doesn't like to be told by the stage no.
Yeah.
You like to overcome obstacles, challenges.
That's what I've said before too. I'm not in this for participation. Like if I don't think I can win at a thing, I either pretty quickly need to try and figure out how to win, or I kind of lose interest in it.
Yeah. What else?
Which
what
is
else can I do?
I don't know if that's good or bad, or if what that says about me, but nonetheless.
Well, I mean, that's with any kind of racing. The question of why you're doing it is kind of an important thing. That's an important conversation that you have to have with yourself. And I think everybody is going to have their own answer. A lot of them might be the same answer in the end, but it's an answer that you have to come to on your own.
Yeah, it's for fun, but it's fun to win.
Sure.
So,
well, and this is one of the things. Oh man, the Pikes Peak car has been a big challenge because we are just now finally getting to the point where we're competitive. And it's taken almost 12 years, which is nuts. But now we're finally like, we're not even competitive yet exactly, but we're kind of like looking at the horizon of being competitive. We now know enough to know what we need to do to be competitive, and we're making some changes now to finally get to that point. But it's been a really long road. But there's with that race in particular. It's such a weird scenario because you can't. You get one shot at it per year.
Right.
You get one run per year of the actual race run. That's it. And so it takes a long time to kind of build up the experience, kind of figure out some of these puzzles. And then with the rally, it's a whole different thing where it's. I mean, we have a pretty good idea what it is to be successful, and it feels it's now clear that we've run off course and we've got to kind of regroup. Because, again, the calendar, the schedule, the time that we can put into the car between events, it's just kind of...
But you're not going to throw out the car and start over.
Are you really?
It was actually discussed. It was actually discussed. But no, I don't think so. And I think realistically, like, this is...
I mean, he could go buy an R2 car.
I did think that question was going to get answered with a no. Instead it was...
well, the funny thing is when you have this ball of problems that you're kind of rolling with, it can get the frustration can really build up.
It's evident it's tweaked.
Yeah,
right?
it's
Something.
Well, and
something's
you can almost feel like it's cursed because it's like, well, why does this happen? Why, with the last event it was fine. Why is it all of a sudden now just like ripping to the right at every opportunity?
Why, after I drove a car off a mountain 3 times in a row, did it decide it doesn't want to drive straight anymore?
Yeah, in theory, put back together. But it's like, wow, what have we now induced? What have we missed? What is not correct? Yeah, I mean, it's just there's a point of frustration, and that's the difference with a hill climb or a set of events where you don't have a lot of time compression. Is you have a little bit more of the luxury of like being able to like take a break, reset, reevaluate, and then come back and kind of have more of a strategic approach. Whereas in a rally, and especially when you've got like events that are like 2, 3, 4 weeks apart, you're in this scramble to get the car back.
But every Pikes Peak competitor I know is working up until the night before to finish projects.
That is the irony of Pikes Peak. I mean, I swear there are cars that are probably getting fired up for the first time since last race to go through tech inspection the next year.
Yeah.
And then, but there's
That's
some
what happens when it's not our day jobs, man.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and like I realize with the Pikes Peak car how important testing is, and how we've always taken on these big projects, at least the last handful of years, where we can't really do sufficient testing, and then things happen. I don't know. It's that it's almost that pie in the sky of like we want to get to the point where the car is reliable enough so that from one year's race to the next year's race, all we can do is test and refine. We don't have to like fix anything. It's just getting more familiar and really like getting the setup right, refining the details so that next year then it actually.
You must have seen those certified pre-owned checklists that you can get when you from the dealership.
Yep.
I'm laughing here right now because I'm looking at my dirt bike out in the parking lot outside the window right now. I just raced it for 3 days at an enduro. In my re-prep, I'm going to go home, just throw it in the garage tonight. Tomorrow, I'll probably spray it with a hose and change the oil.
Maybe.
Probably lube the chain. Maybe clean the air filter.
Yeah.
I got a solid 20 minutes of work I got to do on that thing to get it re-prepped.
But could you do other things? Or is that it?
I probably will actually check to see where my clickers are at on the suspension, just because I have this compulsive adjustment disorder where like I'll just wander off into the weeds as I just start clicking away. So every once in a while I have to like re-baseline my clickers.
It's that ASMR.
I'm just sitting there like, oh god, I want it to be hard, like a stiffer suspension.
You like to hear that.
It's really satisfying. It's like a really nice, long, really thin flathead screwdriver.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is with us for Pikes Peak, we need to realize we need to do more of that because things will get out of adjustment. And like we were like for the beginning of the race week, our adjustments were all crazy.
I think you need to go to the dealership and get some of those certified pre-owned checklist
Have them
forms.
do it. Have them do it.
I'm looking to purchase this vehicle. Please evaluate it for my purchase.
No, I'm serious. There's that thing where
like, oh, your brake pads are yellow on the green, yellow, red scale.
Yeah. Well, but also the little things like, did you check all the hoses to make sure all the hoses don't have any scuffs or tears or pinholes? Stuff like that nobody ever does.
You go through things, and what it really is Viet has built a spreadsheet. I've not built a spreadsheet because at this point I'm not hands on with going through the cars anymore. But it's like you need the green, yellow, and red, and there's 3 different tiers. Like you'd probably start with red. This is the things that I absolutely must check before the car goes to the next event. Yellow is the things that I should. And green is the things that I want to check. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of wheel bearings, fluids.
I'll just say those do need to be done right now.
Yeah.
I haven't even seen the car, and I'll tell you they probably need to be done.
Axle boots. Yeah. Shifter, is it grinding? Is it all working?
Needs a new engine.
Yeah. Chassis needs a new chassis.
Yeah. But it's the organization. The organization is really helpful, and then there's the discipline of like, it doesn't matter that you've got a car that's in perfect shape or is in horrible shape, and you apply your checklist the same to both of going through it. Like in some ways the worst thing that can happen is you go out to an event, nothing happens, everything runs great, and you come back because that's when you push the car to the back of the garage. You wait till the next event and you pull it out and you go again, and then invariably something has changed or you broke something that you didn't realize. Something blows up, and then away you go.
Do you think this is a big change direction? So buckle up. Do you think Project Midnight and Gobstopper 3 are going to show up to Pikes Peak next year?
That is a hell of a change.
I think Gobstopper 3 is a real possibility.
They really want to. I haven't really gotten a definitive answer from the guys.
There was a rumor that they were going to try to do it this past year, right?
100%. They were initially announced, and then basically they had some issues, and they had not been able to do sufficient testing to the point where they were comfortable to take Gobstopper 3, put it in a shipping container for 6 weeks to send out here, and then run this event that they know is challenging.
Imagine that. Imagine doing some testing, realizing you're not ready, and saying, next year.
Yeah. Well, and speaking about the cost of just going to an event, like if you're in a different country and you have to ship a car, the spares,
this is the
all the
extreme level
gear,
of the stuff we've just been talking about.
I mean, like this is like orders of magnitude even more of an investment.
I've been at national rallies where there's European teams here that are competing with RC2 cars, and they are disassembling the entire car in a parking lot because something isn't right, and yeah,
I mean it's
pushing it through tech.
I mean, I understand the priority in having basically a high level of comfort or confidence that the car is sorted, it's a known quantity, it has checked off or met all of these wants or needs that you feel like the car has to check off before you would ship it over
it's
to
a
a different
concept.
country.
It's almost cliche now. Like it's been beat to death. The car is never going to be 100%.
Yeah, but if you've got a lot of questions, like if you think the car's only 50%, like if your car...
That car is breaking... I mean, Gobstopper 3 I'm talking about, and frequently Project
Midnight.
Midnight. Already they're breaking records, right?
Yep.
Fastest Subarus.
Gobstopper 3 gets an engine rebuild every 50 miles or something like that, right?
It's 10 hours.
10 hours.
10 hours, I believe.
Yeah, it does about 5 miles an hour. That makes sense.
10 hours of total runtime.
Yeah, right. So So yeah, but then again, that's a different mentality, and they build those cars for a different purpose.
And like, but the really guys that are really serious about rally or racing, I mean, you basically have a teardown interval for your engine and transmission.
That's the
stuff
dream.
Like that.
I mean, half the reason I want to become a fancy pro driver someday is, one, I want to have a chef. God, I'd love to have a team chef because I hate trying to figure out what to eat on race weekends.
To just be able to go up and say, like, I want chicken fingers now, please.
Can I please be healthier? Yeah. I'll take this. So team chef. And also, like part replacement time intervals or whatever. I'm spacing on what this concept is, like, when parts time out and stuff like that. Oh, man, I'd love to know, this left tie rod is at so-and-so 100 hours, time to switch it out, right?
Ever listen to, like, F1 driver radio or NASCAR driver radio? I don't know. I think those guys that complain about the car and complain about the team too much.
That's their job, though.
I know that's their job. Yeah. I don't want that to be my job. I want my job.
Well, don't complain about the team, but you can still be really happy that you have an engineer talking about, like, it's this piston's done. Switch this one out now.
Well, but it's like if your responsibility is to get a car to an event, have it run reliably at the event, and have a good result at the event, like, and you have unlimited budget, like, you start to figure out, like, how long ball joints last, how long axles last.
Yeah, you're eliminating DNFs and problems like that because you have engineered failure percentages and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's this is, again, like, if you're going to compete, you have to decide, have the conversation with yourself and figure out what you like about it, what you want to do about it, what your goals are, and how deep you want to go in the prep for the event, so that you can, like to me, I've crewed on a couple rallies years ago, and I realized that was not my bag, because, one, I don't like being in the pits waiting and not knowing what's going to be coming.
I
mean, that
to me, team radio.
For my personality type, like, sitting there for 4 hours, like, is the car going to come back and everything's fine? We just put on tires,
probably
or
not.
Is it going to be on fire, like, missing half the car? And we have 20 minutes to try and throw it back together. Like, for me, the waiting of, like, what are we going to get was just, like, it was massively stressful. It was not enjoyable.
Scott and I went off about half a mile apart on the road.
Yeah.
He didn't have service. I did.
Yeah.
So I had the pleasure of telling his crew, "Hey, by the way, here's
what you're going to see in about
get out the
an hour or
spares.
two."
Yeah.
Hook the trailer up and get out the spares.
Yeah. And the one rally, it was an Oregon Trail rally that I was, like, really the second set of hands on the car. We had this issue when an axle popped out, and so, like, car got home or got back to service. We had to, like, replace a whole bunch of stuff. We were up until midnight, and then up at, like, 5 o'clock the next day to go out and get ready for the next. It's just, like, that's not my bag. Like, I realized that's not my bag. That's not something that I enjoy. But, like, I know that there are people that do, and that's cool. But I've learned that for me, that's not what I want to do. So, like, for me, I want to do as much prep as I can beforehand, and like going out to Pikes Peak is a lot more tenable because I can like make a schedule, take time, and get the car set up, and then hopefully go out to the event and have a better experience.
There's a bunch of guys who basically run Lemons teams where they just build a car and they crew it with their buddies or whatever, and then they get other drivers to come in and do the driving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's the mechanical challenge. I mean, at this point, like, for me, the biggest appeal for Pikes Peak is, like, trying to really figure out the problem. What can we do to really get this car set up so that it actually works right and can be competitive?
Well, yeah. I mean, one of the things that I realized is that if I'm co-driving an event, I can't also crew it in the same way. I really can't.
That's
because,
the dream.
well, I mean, especially a stage rally, and if some of the events don't have Gemba notes, so my job is really important in terms of making sure the car doesn't, drive off a cliff.
And by the same token, like, that's where the prep of the car is important, because if you have all this snowball of problems that we've been talking about, and you still have to go out there and do recce for a day, and the car doesn't even run right, like that's all of a sudden it becomes a huge amount of things to do. There's a huge amount of pressure there to both prep for the co-driving plus prep the car so you can actually go out and use the notes that you just spent a whole day making.
There was this funny thing, because I did some training with Alex and Rihanna Gelsomino and Michelle Miller, and talking to those guys, they're like, okay, so when you get to the event, basically they talk about events in terms of, okay, when you get to the event, here's where you do all your co-driver things, and the crew does their things, and then you steal the driver, make sure he doesn't party too hard, so you can focus on the on the notes, and it's funny because that level they're not dealing with the same things we're dealing with. They're not, and
this is like when you start grassroots and you start working up. I mean, you don't have the luxury of sometimes of even having a crew. Like sometimes you're a 2-man band. Maybe got a bass player. I don't know.
I got swept on the side of the road of one of the transits at Rally Colorado, and they asked me, "Does your crew know you're out here?" Like, no. Do you want to radio them or something like that? Like, we don't have a crew. Is it like, oh, what are you gonna do? I'm like,
I don't know.
I'm broken down. My weekend's done. I'm just gonna lay here until I die of exposure or something like that. I guess, right? Like, can I get a ride?
Yes. Like, does your crew know you're here? Yes.
I was
do you want to call them?
shoestring to get here. I don't have a plan for what happens if it goes wrong.
Right.
So,
and there's when you are able to navigate through that and figure out a way through those challenges. I mean, you learn a lot. I mean, it can be really confidence inspiring, but it can also be really frustrating. I mean, it
established for me that I don't.
There's a lot of emotions.
I don't like working on cars. I've established this over 170 podcasts now.
Yep.
I don't like working on cars, but you got to do what you got to do to party,
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's with motorsport, with racing. I mean, that's the hard part. Is the cost to have all of the mechanical work done for you.
Yeah.
Is like. It's orders of magnitude more than just the entry fee.
When everyone says, "Oh, I can't afford to do motorsport," it's like, "No, yeah, you can't, but neither can I." Right? So,
me neither.
Yeah, me neither.
But you're here. You're the driver. Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
I know a lot of guys who go to a lot of rallycross events and have a ton of fun.
Yeah, that's true. You can rallycross real cheap.
You can rallycross real cheap.
You can probably rallycross for way less than it costs you in TV subscriptions every year.
Yeah, you can have a set of tires that last you like 2 seasons.
If you cancel Netflix, you can afford rallycross.
Yeah.
Easily, handily, and do it well, probably.
Netflix costs.
And back to what do you want to do? What are your goals? What are you getting out of the competition?
All right. So do you know Drew and Cindy? Carson, right?
No.
Three Cats Max Racing, something like that. 3 Mad Cats.
I forget what the team is.
I can't remember what they call it.
Yeah.
They're really great folks.
Yep.
They've been doing rallycross for a while, and they're building a rally car now. They were the family that had a really tough year last year due to
a lot of stuff happened in rally last
year. And hell, both of them back on the horse in cars doing stuff after some bad incidents. And so they're building a rally car. It's not a secret. It's an Audi 200 Quattro.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this I know that Drew's, it's his baby, his project. Going into it, he was looking at it like, okay, we're gonna cage this car and then we're gonna go race, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of people do, and then he's working with some really experienced folks, and he's brought me in to handle the EMS, electronics package, stuff like that, and a bunch of folks, including me, have all sat down with Drew and been like, okay, yes, you can just cage the car and go racing, but this is going to be pain. That's going to be pain. This is not going to last. That. And it's basically an 80s Audi, so it has incredibly complicated things in it, from the 80s.
With incredibly complicated things with 80s electronics and
vacuum stuff.
Oh my god!
Oh
my god! There's
vacuum
something
lines forever.
Yeah, it's so funny when people are like, "Oh my god, wiring like spaghetti," and imagine vacuum line spaghetti.
Electricity is way better behaved than air. Electricity
single point of failure.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
So and it's one of those things we recognize the budget's not the sky. You want to get out and racing without next season if possible. So can't do. We're not building a Vermont sports car level car. We're not building a national
and the thing is that
hedge fund teens build, but we can still do a lot of stuff, especially because you're starting from that blank slate.
Well, depending on the driver, if you go in knowing all of these things, you could, if you go in, I've never driven a rally. I don't know that I probably never will because it's just not my thing.
Don't say that.
But
you're so down on things. Come on.
Well, I mean, I
Be
don't think
hopeful.
that's
Half full.
I just,
Yeah, you're gonna drive rally someday. We got it. Yep.
well, okay, but the thing is like if you go in with like a mentality driving the car of like that, like you've got to preserve the car, like you're not going to be pushing as hard. I would say not, but like you have at least a fighting chance of knowing that and driving with that knowledge of getting through the event. You know, you're not going to be maybe as fast, but like that's the hard thing is that then like the red mist can come in.
So part of the impetus of this build that they're doing is that Drew's like, I want to put a V8 in an old Audi wagon and make noises and spray gravel.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
And therefore, because I'm just trying to make noises and spray gravel, I don't need to like go crazy with
good.
other things. I don't need to make it, amazing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, but going to a rally and making noises and spraying gravel is still really hard.
Yeah.
When you're doing certain things, like at Rally Colorado this year, some buddies of mine showed up with their Honda Civic, which is a cool, hilarious rally. It's basically a Lemons car that's also a rally car.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
That's impressive.
and their ECU melted because.
Been there.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man.
Which you don't have. Put a Motec in the car, you won't have that problem.
Yeah.
But,
but then you're there.
The Motec costs more than the car.
Like multiples of the car.
Probably.
You could have a fleet of probably a dozen
All right.
Civic.
Have you guys heard the Legend of the Goose?
No.
This is
Okay.
Grant Hughes's, what was that, a chump car or something like that?
Okay.
It's a BMW 3 Series.
Okay.
And he hill climbed it, stage rallied it. I don't remember if it was WRL or Chump or one of the budget racing series.
Okay.
And it was essentially just a stock BMW with a cage.
Okay.
It even rallied on like OEM struts. They were upgraded OEM struts.
Okay.
But it jumped real big.
Yeah.
It ran, I think,
Wow.
a couple Canadian events because he moved to Montana and stuff like that. So yeah, you can make it work. But he's also a very forgiving driver. I think. I don't know if everyone agrees with that.
Well, and again, like from a driving standpoint, like if I'm driving on a dirt road and like if it's Operation Zero fail, like this, I cannot hit anything with this car. I can't go off with
It's
this
a
car.
surefire way to crash.
Probably, but again, like I'm going to be driving on that dirt road with a different mentality than if I'm trying to like.
He was sliding the car around and jumping it. He wasn't just Sunday driving.
On the other hand, Santiago and I were going around hairpin turns with all these exposures and crap numbers of feet off the edge at these exposures at Prescott on the first stage. We do like a mile of those, and then we break a ball joint right after we finished the thing where we were going around all the cliffs.
Yeah.
Right after that.
Worked out perfectly.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We broke a ball joint right before there was a huge open spectator area for us to park and not get hit in the back by
Sometimes
Nice
what's
job,
the saying? Sometimes the ball joint gets you, and sometimes you get the ball joint.
I don't know if that's
No,
a saying.
is that a saying?
Sometimes.
I don't think so.
No.
Well, in any case, that could have not gone that way. It could have gotten much worse, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I only realized that after the fact.
Maintain your stuff. I'm not saying don't maintain
No,
your
but
stuff.
it wasn't even like maintaining your stuff. It was like, this particular part store ball joint from China decided to be a piece of crap.
But the other point that you made, if you remember, is that once you had this failure, he was like, we are not going to try and like limp this thing through like that.
We're not going to tie a ratchet strap around the knuckle and keep racing another 15 miles of stage.
That's the aspect of rally that becomes really interesting. Is like if you're really going to do like the rally mentality is like how hard do you push like. Where you see the guy where the co-driver is hanging outside.
Yeah. That was one. So at one point,
and you're missing a tire, and you're shooting sparks, and you're just like trying to get this car into service.
We went from first on the road to last on the road. Lost a cylinder, which was an ECU issue. Lost the whole front end of the car in a separate incident. I don't even remember. But the red car was built like the bumper would just come off. It left a big open hole, but there wasn't structurally any damage there. But like some plastic bits had folded under, and we decided to like in rally fashion like drive it out. We didn't really, we're dumb kids, didn't really understand like the super rally rules and stuff like that so much with Rally America. But like some of the most fun I had doing stage rally, other than driving around fast and stuff, was driving obviously a car that's not running well with plastic bits scraping off and no front end of the car anymore.
Yeah.
And like you're last on the road. windows down, like driving suit open because it's just dead hot, and going past spectator points, and everyone's like, "Yeah, let's get ready."
Yeah.
You're like,
Well,
"Yeah, let's check this shit out."
like from a driver's standpoint, like going fast, that can be there's a certain appeal to that, certainly. But like trying to figure out a way, like how can I as a driver limp this car through, navigate this, use this car to get through a stage, get back to service, all that sort of thing.
Yeah, rally's kind of fun for that. I mean, the enduro on the moto just did this last weekend, the same aspect. Like it was a total of more than 4 hours of race time over the course of the 3 days, like actual, they call it test, not stage, but more than that. So it's, I felt like a billion times, but everyone's going to fall a few times if you're racing for that long. And so it's like minimizing the effects of a fall. Should I stop and, try and straighten these bars out or get my gear sorted out or just make it to the end of this test, making that, stage rally, right? It's, do I stop and fix the flat now because I'm going to lose more time and damage more parts, or do I run out the rest of the stage and make those risks in order to not have that stop time on, while the clock is ticking and stuff. And that stuff's fun. I don't like working on cars. I don't like wrecking stuff I'm going to have to fix later. But in the moment, there's a lot of like that rally culture that's so deeply embedded in it that it's a lot of why a lot of people find rally interesting or find a passion for it in the first place.
Well, and the other part of it is that there's a ton of camaraderie in rally, which you don't find in most other motorsports. Well, because it's basically you against the car, against the clock, against the event.
Yeah.
And so like rally is one of those cool pit areas where you can just walk around and go like, man, I need help. Can you do anything? And everybody's like, what can I give you? What can I do to help you?
It feels like the most awkward thing, but it's one of the oldest traditions, I'm guessing, in rally is the whole, hey, do you guys have a whatever?
Yeah.
No? Yeah. Okay, sorry, thanks. Next pit. Hey, do you guys have a whatever? No?
Yep.
Okay, sorry, thanks.
Or hell, crossing the finish line overheating. And so Santiago's buddies from California in their STI tow us back to service.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, like the buddy tow.
Oh, yeah, that's great. I mean,
Yep.
All right.
Well, I was gonna say, if you really want to make, the day of one of the like the sweep guys or whatever who like locals who volunteer at a rally, tell them at the finish line that you need a tow back to service. They're like, I've been doing this my whole life.
Right.
I've been waiting to do this. Yeah. That's the whole reason that they're there.
That's the whole reason they're there.
Hopefully I can hook somebody up and tow them back to service. Yeah, for sure.
That's it. It's a rolling circus. All that kind of stuff.
I mean, it's one of these things where like it's a completely unique environment. I don't think. I mean, maybe Lemons is in the ballpark of it. Maybe.
Yeah, it's different because there's not
there's more
as much.
There's more competition.
The 2-day races, I think, are more close to it because you get like that evening, park scrounge around and party and stuff like that.
The full 24s are way more cutthroat.
Yeah.
But it's like you go out there, you crew for it, you co-drive in it, you drive in it, and then it gets under your skin.
Everybody's going to have problems when you're racing that long.
It's crazy. Rally doesn't make any sense if you write it down on a sheet of paper and you just look at what it is, what you're probably going to have to do, and what you're probably going to go through. But then you go out there and you do it, and you're just like, there's for some people, it's like, this is it.
You know what makes no fucking sense? Get in the car, switchbacks with cliff exposures. I'm in the seat that's on the side that's looking over the exposures, and I'm like I'm freaking out because the last time I was in a rally car, I watched the ground approach me from the side, and it scared the shit out of me. Right? Yet my job is to focus on this notebook and read notes because if I don't do that well enough, then we're probably going to go over the side again.
If you don't focus and do that, then you're definitely going over. But if you do that, then you're probably not.
I don't know what the hell. Seriously, that was a good minute of me being like, what the hell was I thinking? Getting into another one of these cars and doing this. But the
co-driver aspect, that also like does not make sense.
Yeah, but the fact that I was able to stay on notes and focus and make that the priority, that made me feel good about this and be like, yeah, no problem, I can do this.
The one role in motorsports that makes even less sense than a co-driver in rally?
Sidecar?
Sidecar, 100%. The monkey. The monkey on the sidecar. Like, who's growing up and like, you know what I'm going to do in the future? I'm going to ride on this motorcycle going like 1,000,000 miles an hour, not connected to it in any way, and I'm just going to be sitting over here, like rolling and climbing and trying my best to fall off while not falling off the motorcycle.
And they do fall off sometimes, which is funny.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as I don't get hurt, obviously, right? Yeah, But there's
insane.
some like
Because we saw the sidecar races at Pikes Peak a handful of years. It's just like you have to have a particularly weird screwless to do that at Isle of Man, and then I think an even weirder screwless to do that at Pikes Peak.
Yeah.
Because
I'm pretty sure there's a whole scene in that old movie, a funny thing happened on the way to the Forum, which is basically that.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. You're exactly right. Yes, I know on the chariot. Yep.
On the
Thinking of Indiana Jones. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Indiana Jones.
Sean Connery.
To a less
Yeah,
extent.
for sure. Yeah.
Less extent. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, as we're winding down here. First, to everybody, thanks for your support. Thanks for listening. Make sure you check out OTC Racing, Money Shift Rally. Broke? Not broke. It's just money.
Broken money.
Broken Shift Rally is Money Shift Rally.
Money Shift Rally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in the comments, like, have you raced rally? Do you want to race rally? Have you done rally cross? Do you want to do rally cross? What kind of motorsports do you want to do, or what have you done, and what was the grab?
What is Project Midnight a Subaru?
Spoilers for the next episode because we didn't get there. This one is Project Midnight a Subaru. Yes. Yeah. That's all. That's the whole other thing. But we can't do that now because the time is the time and the thing is the thing.
We talk too good, yeah.
We talk too good.
Ask us questions about how to do rallycross, which is basically like rally. It's almost as fun.
If you don't ask us good questions, we're going to start talking about the new Outback.
That's right. Yeah. The new Outback
How can you
Ascent.
do this to me?
Do you want this to be a consumer advice podcast? If so, don't participate.
I have opinions that I want to discuss, and so we're going to do that at some point. But
boy.
yes,
Okay.
yeah,
Flatirons Tuning's consumer advice podcast.
yes.
Can you
All
hear
right.
that Subaru just start?
That's right. It's a song of our people. Enjoy.
It's going to hit the building.
Oh,
Ah.
didn't hit the building. All right. Good radio.
Bye,
Good
Dylan.
radio. All right, guys. Well, thanks very much for your support as always. Thanks for listening, and until next time, stay tuned to Flatirons Tuning. Thanks for tuning in. To hear the whole conversation, click below for the full episode of this podcast, or tune in every week on iTunes or Spotify. If you like these episodes, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, because your support is what makes all of this possible. As always, this show is brought to you by Flatirons Tuning, your premier source for any Subaru OEM or aftermarket parts. Check out our website at flatirons.tuning.com, and as always, stay tuned with Flatirons Tuning.